Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullah, God's peace be with you. Appreciate you joining me here today. Hope everyone's been doing well. All my brothers and sisters out there, and welcome new people. If this is the first time you've seen one of my videos, I ask you to please, when you get a chance, go to the first video and start from there, only because that way I think you'll be more up to speed. I try to keep all of these original, but sometimes it helps to have context, and that's what's most important, especially when you look at the overall intent of this channel more than anything else, not just to support all of my fellow brothers and sisters, but as an act of reaching out to those who are not familiar with our faith and want to know more. This is important, I think, to start at the beginning. But nonetheless, I threw out my back over a week ago, and it was very painful, so I apologize. But doing a little bit better. Allah Azza wa Jal certainly does test us always, constantly, especially when, if we're not being the best we can be, because Allah is all merciful. God is all merciful, and He really wants the best for us. And of course, the best is, of course, Jannah. He wants us to succeed. He's like a motivational speaker. He's also like a personal trainer, He will get on your case. I'm telling you, He really will. And, you have to really, once you have this awareness, you'll know what's going on. And you'll know, yep, okay. So, alhamdulillah, though, praise be to God, I am feeling better. Certainly not 100%. This old busted machinery that was once a youthful body is, time is taking its toll, and that's also in the Quran too, in many places. He talks about that. He talks about how we start off as feeble, and then we get stronger and healthier. And of course, I don't think this is mentioned in the Quran, but there's this time in our youth when we think we're, on top of everything, and we can do anything, and we're, invulnerable to everything, and then we start, picking up some scars and some bruises along the way, start getting smarter and wiser, and then eventually the body is starting to become feeble again. I'm kind of heading in that direction, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Looking forward to, inshallah, hopefully one day we will all be given much better bodies than these, but we must also appreciate what we're given. And that's important too, by the way. Love yourself. Love the body you're in. This is a creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, as is everything. And Allah is the world's greatest designer and the world's greatest artist. So let's never insult something He made. Just be grateful and embrace it. Okay? Quit trying to turn yourself into something else that you weren't meant to be. That's follow Allah's lead. This is what He wants for you. This is who He wants you to be. Become that. Okay? But, so, we're these two brothers that I'm familiar with. And I noticed they're kind of on opposite sides of the spectrum in regards to worship. So, one of them, he is a different school of thought. I can't say he's wrong. I mean, Allah knows best. But just different. He really doesn't put a lot of importance in the actual ritual of salat. The actual ritual worship itself. He puts a lot of focus on deeds, believing that this is how you redeem your soul, by doing good deeds, doing good things for people, inspiring people, helping people, charity, zakah. And those are all parts of the pillars, so those are very important. Yes, indeed. And yet, I happen to notice that he's always plagued with illnesses, colds, bad illnesses, And the man's a brilliant man and, knows how to stay healthy, and yet, for whatever reason, he just can't seem to, beat these colds. And so then you've got this other brother on the opposite side of the spectrum, and he prays and prays and prays and prays. And it's, I mean, almost all this guy does, alhamdulillah, but constantly praying, regular, of course, the 5 daily prayers, plus, sunnah prayers and late night prayers, which is called Qiyam alal, and of course, the morning prayers before Fajr, and all kinds of prayers in between. We can't even count the number of rakats this guy does. And yet he doesn't feel like he's making progress. He feels empty. Like, he's wondering, do I need to pray more? Do I need to put more rakats into it? Does it matter where my hands are, positioned? I mean, all these things are going through his head, wondering why he feels like that connection isn't quite there, as much as he tries. But I really don't know what's in his brain as far as what he's thinking of when he's praying. So I really can't speak to that. But I happen to know from personal experience, it is what's in your heart and your intent that matters far more than the actual ritual itself. Not that the ritual is important, and honestly, the ritual of Salah was established simply because otherwise, the actual structure was established simply to unify things, so that we were all following, praying in the same way. Because there were plenty of people at the beginnings that asked our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's like, prayer, yes, prayer, prayer is obligatory, it's required, it's in the Quran. But they would ask, how? What do I do? What do I say? And so, people needed some kind of structure. Because otherwise they would just wing it, which is a dua. It's a type of dua, right? When you just reach out with your heart, that's a dua. Okay? And of course, there are structural duas too that the Prophet Muhammad taught us. But you can really just literally speak to God, speak to Allah whenever you want with your heart when you speak. And He has directly answered me when I've made duas of that type. When my heart reaches out, when I just have to talk to Him. Oh, He hears. He hears. It's like a beacon goes off in all of heaven, and He hears. But so I look at these two extremes, and I'm thinking to myself, and honestly, it's like the answer comes to me. It's like, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, to be honest. I think what's important is we establish a balance. So I don't think it's all one and not the other, or all the other and not the one. I think it's a mix of both. And I think it's actually important that we make sure it's a mix of both. Okay? So the ritual salah, the structural salah is important and should not be just cast aside and thinking, well, I just don't have time for this. Mm-hmm. No. The whole purpose of salah is not to find somewhere in your day to put God, but actually make God the principal thought of your day and then fit everything else around that. That's really what's important here. Our mind needs to be on our Creator more than anything else, because don't forget, the Creator does not need the creation. I'm going to say that again. The Creator does not need the creation, but the creation needs the Creator. I'm going to say that again. The creation needs the Creator. Now we're going to flip it around. Nah, let's keep it that way. The Creator does not need the creation, but the creation needs the Creator. Okay? And He has mentioned many times in the Quran, He has said, if at any time, I get tired of you, just replace you with something else. And then He mentions in the Quran many times, look through the world. Look at all of those peoples and all those civilizations that once were. And where are they now? These were people once just like you. They're where you were now, possibly. But they're not now. They're not anymore. Their civilization's gone. Their government's gone. Their whole way of life's gone. It's been replaced with something else. So You know, if we're not giving him what he wants from us, he can pick somebody else to do it. Well, so, and that's not a problem for him. How many times has he done it before? More times than we can count. More times than we even know. Okay? So again, the creation needs the creator, but the creator does not need the creation. He wants us, yes. And he wants, more than anything, he wants to be included in our lives. Not that he isn't already. Now that's the thing. Some people have this attitude. They're like, oh, you know, he sees everything. He already knows. He already knows. Yes, he does already know. Right? He wrote everything that was going to happen in the Kitab Mubin. This is true. But I feel in my heart he also does like to live in the moment. Right? Let me give you an example. Now, you know, culturally, I'm very different from some of you. And that is what it is. Allah Azza wa Jal knows that for a fact. He created me. So, if you have beef with that, take it up with him. Okay? So, culturally, we're different. So, I grew up in a culture, and don't forget, I was a former actor, film actor. So, I've watched movies, okay? Oh no, the sky's falling. Just ridiculous. Don't be silly, okay? They're perfectly okay if they do not take you away from your worship, if they do not turn your mind towards something evil. So, let's take a film or a book, but a film makes more sense out of context here. So let's take a film that you really enjoy. Let's say it's your favorite film ever. And now you're watching it with someone else. Now, you've seen it over and over again, but they have not. So you're going to get something out of this, out of experiencing it with them. Because you've already seen it, you've already gone from A to B to C to D, gone through the whole thing. Just like Allah Azza wa Jal has already written everything that's going to happen. But to us, this is new. This is the first time this has happened for us. And I can't explain it. If this is written somewhere, if someone else has said this already, that's great. I just know with my connection with him, how much I love our Lord, how connected I am with him. I know that he gets enjoyment out of being in that moment with us. He gets enjoyment out of that. Like the first time you made your shahada, the first time you cried out, he knew it was coming. He already wrote about it. But there he is, and now we're going up to that moment where now it's time. And now he's experiencing that with you. And as your heart pours out to him, you know he's glowing in happiness. You know, he's like, oh, here comes my favorite moment. Here we go. He knew it was coming, but still, there is something about that moment. Now I'm going to share one of those, again, in a movie with, you know, again, there are things out there in the worlds of art, that can inspire you too. Don't forget, who created art? Allah Azza wa Jal. Are there any other creators in this universe other than Allah Azza wa Jal? Name one. Final Jeopardy. There aren't any. Nothing in this universe exists that he did not create and inspire. Nothing. That includes art. That even includes music. I'm going to stop right there before somebody has a stroke. I'm just telling you. Okay? All is his creation. All of it. Now, growing up as a young child, and this of course was long before I embraced my worship to my Lord, Star Wars, the original Star Wars, was my favorite movie. And there's one scene in particular, and if you've never seen it before, I apologize. There's going to be some spoilers here. Might want to mute me. One scene in particular is my favorite scene of all time. Now, it's when Luke is in the trench, and he's like the last starfighter left. He's got one chance to defeat the evil. One chance. He's got this one chance, And he's got Darth Vader and 2 other fighters right behind him. And Darth Vader's got him in his sights, and he's like, I have you now. And he's about to blow him out of the sky, and you're thinking, it's over, it's over, it's over. And then these laser blasts seem to come out of nowhere, knock the other 2 ships out of the way. And, of course, the Dark Lord Vader's like, what? Like, where did that come from? And then he gets blasted, and he's tumbling out into space. And you're like, in that second, you're like, how? What? And then you hear this voice, Yahoo! And you see the Millennium Falcon with Han Solo flying towards you with the sun right behind it. And it's just such an inspirational moment where you're just like, it's the kind of moment where everybody would stand up and cheer like, I can't believe this just happened, you know? So that kind of excitement, you know, I feel that he gets that when he experiences things with us. And so this is why Dua is so important, because it's not so much, I mean, obviously it's important to follow the salat and the schedule, yes. But, I'm thinking of God because it's you know, I'm scheduled to think of God now. What about thinking of God at the times that aren't on the clock? Acknowledging Him when you're not, you know, scheduled to acknowledge Him. When you just see something in the world, or experiences something in the world, and you think, He's there. He's with me. He's a part of this. I just know for a fact in my heart, He loves that. Loves that. When we just stop and just acknowledge and just say, hey, you're amazing. Look at this thing you created. Look at this beauty you created. Look at this sunrise you created. Or listen to the beauty, the music of nature, the sound of the tree frogs, and which I have playing in the background, right? This is all His. And imagine the scene, you know, of a quiet lakeside with the moon reflecting on the water as it ripples, and just hearing these night sounds, these crickets and these frogs, and just this moment of just absolute beauty. You know, not just the music of nature, but just the colors, the mastery behind all that. And you look at this, and it's just so breathtakingly beautiful. And you're like, this obviously is the work of God. There's just no possible way it could be otherwise. And you let Him know that. You acknowledge that. You acknowledge that you know, that you recognize and appreciate that in Him. Because don't forget, He never takes a break. He's working 24/7. So, you know, a thanks can go a long way. And believe me, He will reward you more times than you can count for doing so. So, again, it's finding balance, really. It's not just the ritual of salat, which is important. So again, I'm saying you really need to do this. And if you've been slacking on your prayers, you know, if things have been going off for you, there's a good chance that that's what's really going on here. You're kind of failing. You know, it's like, you know, maybe Allah's saying, when's the last time you did something for me? I mean, not that, you know, the prayers are for Him, but you know what I'm saying, the acknowledgement. It's like, if you don't remember Him, why should He remember you? Right? Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. So, you know, first of all, you do need to stay with those. But you also need to include Him in everyday life as well. And acknowledge Him at all times. Which brings up another point. Study and work. So, I remember an interaction between a brother and a scholar. Notice how I do that, because I'm not a big fan of that word, or what we think it means. As we've said before, donkeys can carry lots of books. Doesn't make them any smarter. Anyways, so he was saying how he had to delay his prayers because of his studies. Because he's, this is the way, his studies, his schedule, and his sleep schedule and everything else. So he's trying. He feels bad about it. And he does make up his prayers as soon as he can. Now, this scholar just goes off on this tangent saying, oh, you're late for your prayers? Well, you're going to hellfire then. I mean, he literally said something like this. He didn't tell the man, hey, good for you that you're still trying to do right by your Lord as well as working hard. He also didn't happen to bother acknowledging the fact that our Prophet Muhammad has said himself, hard work is a form of worship. And those words are well known. Surprised that this scholar happened to ignore this very serious fact. Okay? So, and it is said that, so if you are, for example, studying hard is a form of work. You're trying to better your life. Now, if you do this with a clear conscience, a pure heart, and you do this because you're saying, hey, I wanted, Allah has gifted me with this opportunity. I know I need to do this. I want to live a halal life, and I want to live a good life, and I want to do it the right way, and I need this in order for this to happen. So this is why I do this. This is a form of worship. It is a form of worship, and it is acknowledged, and it is rewarded. So this man who was busting his tail, studying, grinding, studying, and still, when he can, also praying, he's not. I mean, I cannot speak for Allah Azza wa Jal, but I do not think Allah has any problem with that at all. In fact, I'm sure it makes him very happy that this man is trying to better his life and trying to do right by his Lord at the same time. And this scholar telling him, oh, you should just throw away your studies because it's sending you to hell, or whatever kind of madness this man said. Wow. If I were you, I'd unfollow him tomorrow, immediately, because that does not sound like the attitude of our Lord and Creator at all. Not at all. Okay? He does not want you to just be somebody that just sits there with your hand out all day waiting for something to happen. No. He gave you the ability to go out and get it done. Well, then go out and get it done. Okay? So, again, work is a form of worship, and studying is a form of work, as we all know. Trust me, I had to study to get my licenses, and that was rough. So you do it with the right intention. And anything, if you're heading out to do something, and you're heading out to help someone, or heading out to see someone, or you're just heading out to do something for yourself, make the intention that you want to also acknowledge Allah Azza wa Jal in that. And this is a form of dua. It's a form of worship. So again, what I'm saying is balance your life. And make sure you complete your salat, yes, but you can't just only pray and expect to get the same results. It's not enough, okay? Allah isn't really as concerned with your physical actions as he is what's in your heart. And that's what's most important, Again, I've said, like, people that make salat that are just like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to rush through this way. I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but at the same time, it's like, if your heart's not in it, why are you doing this? It's not like he's checking off a knock on something. It's, you still need to recognize why you're connecting with your Lord. And this way, the salah then has the effect it's supposed to have, which keeps your connection there, and keeps the impure and keeps the evil away, right? Which you've noticed it does, doesn't it? Every time, which is why the prayers are spaced out throughout the day the way they are, because the more our minds wander, they go to places that we may not want to be in or shouldn't be in. And so again, this is all part of Allah Azza wa Jall's wisdom and how He wants us to succeed. And He's going to, He's in our corner all the time. And He's always there, and He's always trying to do things to help us get there. And that's, but again, it's finding that balance. And I know I've been rambling a lot, but it's really hard for me to really conceptualize this. I hope you understand where I'm coming from, So again, it's not about how many hundreds of thousands of times you've said a word. Dhikr is important too, of course, but don't think that takes the place of kindness and charity, sincerity and love, and kindness to other people. The dawah, very, very important, hugely important. Empathy, understanding. Also, don't forget animals, right? I feed the wild critters outside my apartment almost every day. And, I do this because the way I feel it is that, before this house was here, right, it was theirs. They lived here. And then, we plopped this house down in the middle of their world, and now we've taken up space there, taken away from some of the things that they had, and I feel like it's important to pay it forward. So I'm like, I'm sorry that tree or that shrub that you once had that, you used to live on is gone. I'm going to feed you now. I'll give you food to make up for that, to make up for what we've taken. I'm going to give it back. That's important to me. Because don't forget, all animals are Muslim. All of them. And this is mentioned in the Quran too. It says there is nothing that lives that does not glorify the Lord. They all worship the Creator. All beings. Even the creepy ones. Even, the ants and the flies and the ankabuts. There's a Quran chapter about the ankabut. They're not my favorite, but except for the jumping ones, they're cute. They're adorable. They got those big eyes and furry little faces and stuff. They're okay. But some of the ones like those Sydney funnel webs, well, thank you. We have an understanding. You live in your world and stay there. Stay out of sight. I respect that. I'll stay away from you. You stay away from me. We're good. We don't need to be friends. No, thank you. But I'm not going to go out of my way to find them and destroy them as long as they don't try to invade my space. I respect their world. They respect my world. We can kind of make a truce, if you will. But yeah, so find that balance, right? And remember Allah Azza wa Jal in those times, throughout the day when you see something beautiful. Remember where that came from and share that with Him. Share your gratitude. Just tell Him you're thankful and you're grateful and feel that in your heart. And I just think that a combination of those things plus your salah is really the right way to go. It just feels right to me, So I appreciate you watching. Hopefully something has helped you here. I'm going to, of course, include a couple of helpful links I've found out there that kind of reiterate what we're talking about and kind of maybe explain things a little bit better than I did. But always appreciate everyone, and hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and assalamu alaikum, peace of God be upon everyone.